So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Christina McKenzie. So she, like I say, is our presenter today. And just to give you a little idea of what Christina's about, here's her hot take bio. Christina is a certified BodyTalk practitioner, and she's in her 6th year of practice. She's completed all the advanced BodyTalk coursework numerous times because she is a seasoned online coordinator. She's done she's coordinated lots and lots of classes for instructors all over the world. And she loves bringing her knowledge to the community through group events, sessions, and deeply healing retreats. She's also a certified red tent facilitator, as well as a red tent educator, who trains other women to lead this sacred practice for the women and girls in their community. She also holds double education degrees and has 15 years of experience teaching in the public school classroom. God bless you, along with a master's in Usui Reiki, which I should have made sure I knew how to pronounce. She lives in the Canadian prairies and spends her downtime reading, lifting weights, and hiking with her family because she's cool. She's cool business. So with that, so you know who you're hearing from, I'm going to turn it over to Christina. Take it away, friend.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, yay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I'm a good teacher and I made a presentation. So just let me know if you can see that and if it looks like a screen share should typically look. Yay. Okay. So I'm really delighted to be on today to connect back with the BodyTalk community. I have just really missed it. I've been out of the loop for quite a while with the greater community. So when Robin asked me to come on quite a few months ago, I really had a deep think about what I wanted to share with you, being practitioners from all parts of the world, seasoned beginner, and really my niche comes through using BodyTalk to create unique connections and community. So I would love to tell you about that. My background that I sent to Robin is I am a public school trained teacher. I'm also a professionally trained musician. So I have played in orchestras, sang in choirs. I've conducted orchestras and conducted choirs. So that specific knowledge is what gave me the specialized ability to teach the arts in the public school system. So I did that for 13 years and then 2 extra years as a substitute. So my life before BodyTalk looked like up to 125 different students through my door every day, 350 within the week, twice, so 700, working with up to 24 different staff members cohesively, doing that right brain learning all the time, every day, whether that was in the classroom, so making those daily plans, or doing those really big scope events like the Christmas concert, a musical, extracurricular activities. So I did that for a really long time. And one thing I should have added at the bottom there is that BodyTalk entered my life in about 2011. So really at that halfway point in my teaching career, after my first guy was about a year and change, I found BodyTalk. And it's probably what allowed me to keep teaching for, the 9 years beyond when I had my first BodyTalk session as a client. So in that time frame, as I was flowing through creating babies and trying to work and spreading my nervous system out in amongst all those 350 students and those 25 some odd staff members, I stepped onto the path of women's wisdom. So I've studied with women across the world, how to work with the lunar cycle, how that shows up in our bodies, how to tailor our lives so that we are not stuck in masculine, left brain, full throttle mode all the time. So really kind of at the beginning of time, ancient wisdom. And with that, not only how to work with my cycle each week, but how to look at the greater cycles, so such as the wheel of the year, which are just times of balance of masculine and feminine. So if you look at the winter solstice as the time of the most inward feminine, that would be, you could link that to the bleed phase of your feminine cycle. And then you look at the summer solstice, which is the most masculine time, which is the same as full moon. It's the same as ovulation. So working with those cycles as they go from that literal microcosmic to macrocosmic level is really what put me onto my deep healing path, along with receiving Body Talk. And then I did pursue those Reiki levels, which are always for ourselves. I feel like most of us are Reiki masters. If we found Body Talk, we've done at least a couple Reiki levels, which are always for us to harmonize our energy so we're ready for the consciousness shifts of Body Talk. And as I worked through that, I found my way into the virtual red tent space, given that my mentor was from Australia. And it was through that online portal that I was able to receive those teachings, because Red Tent really doesn't have much of a presence in North America. It's kind of back in England, it's in Australia, a little bit in Scotland. So I was able to receive that lineage, and I'm going to talk about Red Tent in just a bit, but to kind of give you a scope of like how I found my way to Body Talk, the things I did, and sort of right in kind of near the end of that teaching career, that's no coincidence at all. I took my first class as a student. I took my first fundamentals, and I received my certification in spring of 2020 on the exact same day where I received a call that I was being transferred from the school I loved, that my children attended. And so I was easily able to say, with not as much confidence as I'd like to pretend I had, that, okay, now I'm done and I resign. So we're always supported by the universe. All those cycles of support are always working for us, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. But yeah, so that's a bit of my background. So I've been offering Body Talk for about 6 years now in that practitioner capacity, but still receiving Body Talk. So how do I go beyond the treatment room? Initially, most of my Body Talk business came from coordinating. So in my small city that I live in the Canadian prairies, there's already sort of one Body Talk practitioner who still works 5 days a week, 9 hours a day, and everyone associates in-person Body Talk with him. So creating my own matrix, like a more feminine, flowing, ever-changing matrix, has been difficult. But my first inroad was actually with coordinating. So I stepped onto the coordinating scene very early in COVID. I was fortunate enough to gain all of my advanced Body Talk coursework through online, either as a coordinator or as attending as a student. And I started coordinating very shortly after I became certified. So a lot of my business came from students that were in the class. They would often come to me for their 5 sessions you need so that you can become certified. And for about 2 years, I was the most active online coordinator in the entire world. So I've been really lucky to work with 6 or 7 different instructors. I've coordinated every module in the system. I might be one of the few who has taken fundamentals 13 times. So if you have fundamentals questions, yeah, they're in there somewhere. So all the advanced, as well as the life sciences, of course, except for the naked one. Couldn't do the naked one online. So yeah, it was a great learning journey. I've literally met people from all corners of the world, and I really thrived in my distance Body Talk offerings as a practitioner. So I do maintain a treatment space in my home here, but most of my business is through distance. I find I'm the most effective distance. Honestly, the most effective through fully remote, because coordinating so much allowed me to take the classes so many times, as well as Mindscape so many times, that when I get into Mindscape, I find I'm just the most effective. And maybe that's due to my skills as a really right brain learner, but maybe it's because I've already spent 15 years in that classroom regimented session based environment where I had a different class every 45 minutes, and then I'd have a different grade, and it just kept flowing. So I already sort of walked through that really masculine framework. So it does make sense that my business needs to be very much in flow, which it is. So I do still offer occasional in-person sessions. Distance is my kind of bread and butter, and I have, as I've gone beyond and stepped away from coordinating, really found my heart being out in the community, whether it's a virtual group offering or it's a community group offering for Body Talk. So for a very long time, I led full moon group sessions on my own, and usually the list was previous online class attendees. I really like to do body talk on the full moon because the full moon is when we are supposed to be doing this really expansive group level healing. The new moon is when we're deep in that inward personal phase. Our energy is low, but at the full moon we have that cycle of support on our side. So I tend to do all of my events in alignment with the lunar cycle in some capacity or the other. So I did host in July. I partnered with a local breathwork practitioner, an event called Body, Mind, and Breath, which I really liked the sound of. We had a good little turnout. So part of my heart lies in doing things differently. Christina is not a rule follower. So I already was a really good teacher, down to the minute. A teacher can never be late for the classroom. So now my practice really thrives in unorthodox creative spaces. I just attended a festival this past weekend. I brought my tent. I offered a group session in a larger tent. Then I offered personal sessions for people who are walking up and feeling like they would like some body talk. I love working collaboratively in the community. I have an event planned with a yoga teacher. So how that works for me, and of course I'm open to your questions after, is that because we can talk body talk here, we make a little pattern. I open with a formula. We flow through some breath work. I offer a formula. The breath work continues. So it's this really beautiful tandem exchange of that right brain healing, then that left brain asking the body to move or giving some guidance for the breath. And that's what I'll do with that yoga teacher when we are able to schedule that event. I also love offering body talk in a remote pre-recorded fashion in some really cool, unique settings. So I'll talk about in just a minute or two my retreats that I like to offer all across Canada and the world. So I tend to plan those retreats in sacred locations, and every one of my retreats comes with a pre-recorded, fully remote session for the group. And it's done in Mindscape in that location so that people are literally setting their physical feet in those waters, in those mountains, in those healing places and spaces, and receiving that session in their earbuds to really maximize being out in the land, not just on a treatment table. Because where I found the most deep healing is to be out in the world, in nature. So that's really what I'm passionate about. When I decide what am I going to do with my time, what is my priority that's going to take me away from my family. So I've learned after being a teacher for so long that the time with my family and my kids is so precious that what I'm going to invest it in has to have just a maximum payoff for not only myself, but the people that are stepping into my places and spaces. So I'll tell you about body talk on land in just a sec. So I do weave body talk into my red tent practice. So the red tent is a sacred and restorative gathering of women that always occurs at the new moon and has always been on the new moon, as it's the time when women are most in need of rest and support. You don't have to align with the word woman to be in the red tent, but you do have to have experienced life in a cyclical body. So our ancestors gathered in the new moon in the red tent. It was called the Moon Lodge in other cultures, women's mysteries, blood hut. It's not the practice of isolation, which was a very distorted masculine way of, separating the women and really cutting them off from society. It has nothing to do with that. It's the original practice of stepping away when we're in our bleed phase to restore, set down our roles. We're not cooking, we're not cleaning unless the babies are teeny tiny and needing mom. They wouldn't come into the red tent, and that actually follows in our modern framework. So it's not a place and space where you bring your children. It's a place where you come to not be mom, daughter, wife, caregiver, sister, auntie. It's a place where you can come to be deeply supported. So that gathering always happens at the new moon. I offer it locally in my city in my literal red tent that I inherited once I became the provincial commissioner for Clan McKenzie, as is my ancestry. I got a tent along with it, so that was pretty sweet. And I do offer virtual red tent because that was the way I learned to sit in the red tent, and it makes it so accessible. I've had women from across the world step in. And in red tent, what takes up the most time, other than going through the astrological wisdom, working with the new moon, and what that means to be in or out of balance in that piece of our psyche, which you'll know having studied module 6, most of the time is taken up by the heart share. So each woman having a chance to speak uninterrupted in a really kind of right brain, solid, grounded way. It's not a dump fest where we come and complain about our husbands. It's a place where we speak what's greatest on our heart and what needs to be named at that time. And so how Body Talk naturally came in for me, having been a practitioner already before I started offering Red Tent in the spring of 2023, is that after each woman would speak, emotion would be released. It would need to be released. And part of the way I support as a facilitator is to make sure each person is grounded before we move on to the next. So Body Talk naturally came up. In the beginning, I erred on the side of overgiving, and it was almost a mini session, so I had to course correct very quickly, and I learned hard through physical body where I was overgiving. So what it ended up looking like was really, coming from module 4-7, just a beautiful chance to bring in emotional release almost every time. And what I love about emotional release under Bodygenics there is that it's just solidified in the right brain territory of the color and the shape and the sound and the smell and where it is in body. It was the most common way I could support most of the women after they spoke, to make sure that as we moved on, I wasn't leaving them just blasted open or in a state of collapse. Time and time again, having led the Red Tent for almost 2.5 years now, every month, if not twice a month, is that real Bodygenics, even some diaphragm stuff came in. I would run courtesies for them on their behalf, because I'm not going to get people to start It just didn't make sense in that different kind of a ceremonial context, but emotional release was just a key support structure in that, and it continues to be. So that's a way I bring in a little piece of Body Talk, and what Red Tent has given me is a lot of clients, because they have sat in my space, they have felt my energy, they have heard the way I speak, and often I found that's what's needed to build that trust for someone to come and go on your table. Because most people, despite the prevalence of Body Talk, they're like, well, what actually is it? And I was like, do you remember being in Red Tent and how that felt? Yes, that's how Body Talk feels. So I can only really show them how it feels. I can't tell them. So most of my clients have come through Red Tent and Red Tent referrals by women who have come virtually or in person and then said, hey, yeah, I'm navigating this thing. I know I'm not alone, because 5 other women said it. I actually went to Body Talk to shift it. So it kind of ended up being the piece that helped people continue on their healing journey. And yes, speaking out loud, changing your life is part of it. And that's what we do in the Red Tent. You know, we name how we're moving forward in sacred action. Body Talk is what helped the changes stick and to go further, to allow them to have all that very specific tailored support. And then it really, the way I do a Body Talk session, it is like a ritual. I'm always reminding my women and my clients that they're the ones that are healing themselves, and all they need is observation. Just like to hear another woman speak across the circle, and to hear that you're not the only one going through this and there's someone 5 years down the line from you. I observe healing is possible. And so then that sets them on that trajectory, and it flows really well into understanding how investing in a Body Talk session can support you. So I kind of had a grassroots up approach, maybe a little bit more labor intensive approach of, you know, building those clients, but my energy is also really particular. I don't think I can handle having 6 different clients in my space a day. Really, my maximum is 2, because my boundaries are really high. And that's just the way I am, but it serves, because what it allows me to do is to spend a lot of downtime planning. Oh no, I didn't change the text. Sorry. Canva default, hidden world. Cool, let's talk about hidden world. I forgot to change the paragraph. All good, but you got some good photos. Because what I tend to do is I tend to spend a lot of time inward in my life, having spent so much time in front of students, audiences. This is my yin phase, and I am slowly coming out of it. but I would do a lot of work planning behind the scenes, still learning. I'm a huge student of astrology. I've been studying astrology longer than Body Talk. And so what that gives me the ability to do is I retreat and then I plan for these retreat experiences that I offer. And they do each take me upwards of a year, if not two, to plan. So using my local red tent women, the clients that I have, I actually create these experiences for still really small groups of women all across the country and soon to be the world. So when we go on retreat, we're going somewhere that's meaningful and we're taking multiple healing modalities with us. So I offered my group in the middle photo there a pre-recorded remote session in the healing vortex of Lake Louise, which is in Alberta, Canada. It's the Three Sisters Healing Vortex is well known. So to have them literally standing on the ice, their feet in that place with that session in their ears, I know created pivotal change in different ways for most of them. I have done healing sessions in sacred spaces related to the Indigenous culture with the permission of local people there to offer that fully remote session. And then what we do is I support other practitioners. I've learned I can't offer Body Talk sessions on retreat because I'm the host. So I bring other practitioners with me to offer massage, reflexology, Body Talk, subconscious imprinting technique, everything under the sun, as long as it aligns with myself and that person and our nervous systems, so that women can experience other amazing female-led businesses and the healing offerings that they have. And we can essentially do what we were supposed to do on Red Tent at the new moon, which is to step out for 3 days and 3 nights. So I offer usually 1 retreat a year, sometimes 2, when we do just that. So we sit in the red tent because that's always the new moon. My retreats are always on the new moon. Every woman decides whether they opt in and support each other with those healing sessions. And an energy money exchange is made, because to get yourself there and to want to do that, unless there's a trade agreement in place, this is an investment. So I learned very early on that I don't thrive well in a trade-based agreement, other than a couple of people that I'm really close to. I've done the sliding scale offerings. I've done the free group events to try to attract clients, and they just don't. So that's part of maybe the permission I'm giving you, is to not shy away from what you need to charge for your services, because that anchors in the value of what you offer. So if you're giving it away for free, that'll be a journey you need to navigate. But I've learned that these experiences, I've learned not to underprice them, especially the retreats that take me a full year and often involve non-refundable components, using my family's money towards these experiences. And they always do sell out. If they need to be canceled, it's always for a really good reason, but that just frees up the energy to go into something else. So I like the unconventional. I like the deep immersive experiences. And I do the group remote sessions. I have done a group live Body Talk session on retreat. I love supporting other practitioners, and that way that gives them the ability to have clients, usually distance, unless it's massage or reflexology. They can build their businesses through my experiences. So that's the way that I give back to my community. I advertise for these other women. So it's a way that I've chosen to focus my energy rather than what I had initially thought of, which was possibly becoming a Body Talk instructor. But I have navigated the teaching role for enough years that was not a yes. I'm in my adventure, my inward, but then that 10% of the year I'm out and I'm adventuring, taking people to the places that I love. So, and I'll tell you about my upcoming experiences. I have one more this fall, but it's already basically full, and you'd have to be kind of in the Canadian prairies to attend, but we are taking a pretty big adventure next spring. Another way I like to weave in what I know with Body Talk is through astrology. And if you've taken fundamentals, depending on who you've taken it with, perhaps you've heard how John Valentine was in clinic as a chiropractor and a student of acupuncture. And when his patients weren't improving, he would send them to his astrologer. And then they would improve. So really what I love about that story, and I can't remember who I've heard it from or whether it's typically told by fundamentals instructors, possibly not, is that it just shows you that that consciousness-based healing has been present through the modality of astrology for 6,000 years. So I love that that gave John the impetus to kind of weave that into the body talk system. And I've taken macrocosmic body mind 5 times, and it's clearly my favorite because it just shows how we're connected to those various cycles of support and how each part of us is a different aspect of psyche and consciousness. So to date that I know of, not having my pulse on the whole world anymore, I might be, that I know of, the only person offering sessions that involve a combination of natal chart reading and body talk. Because your natal chart is a map of your consciousness. The moment you decided to incarnate, that wheel is turned, not necessarily at Aries, unless you happen to be in Aries rising. That dial is turned based on what was rising on the horizon the moment you chose to be born. And that informs how each of those house areas, which you'll know from Watts 6, are expressed. I'm a Virgo rising, so I express my vitality and my life force in the first house through being organized, being a literal priestess, having those healthy habits and the day-to-day rituals that keep me grounded. So I love bringing my body talk lens to astrology. And I was fortunate that the first person I took Mod 6 with, which was Dr. Laura Stuve, who has since left the body talk system. She does Body Intuitive, if you've heard of that. She showed us how to work with life cycles as protocol and how to work within our natal charts. So that really lit a fire under my butt, and it was like the most magical thing I'd ever heard. So I don't know if anyone's done astrology or had readings, but stuff can be in not great placements within our chart. Whoopie-doo, we just body talk it. Great, super. It's just a piece of self. It's a challenging, hard transit, detrimental aspect. Great. What is it opening up the opportunity to do? Do we need to send it hydration? How about a circulation plug-in? How about a vivaxis between these two planets because they're not in a harmonious aspect? We do all that through body talk. So I am deeply passionate about astrology, and if people are coming up into hard transits, which we're just about to enter eclipse season, all the eclipses are in Virgo, so I'm laughing because I'm looking at a massive career change very soon, and it's going to serve. But we have to all look at that piece of Virgo within our charts, whether it's 5th house, depending on your rising sign, maybe it's 7th, maybe it's 12th. But it's just a great way to meet people where they're at in their exact cycle, what they're doing in life in this exact moment. So it adds another personalized layer to what I offer. And I do not do a personal body talk session without that person's natal chart. It's just, it does not happen. I cannot see you fully unless I have your chart there as well. So whether we're bouncing back and forth between there, a lot of my sessions do use those bigger archetypes, but they're just aspects of self, aspects of psyche. They rule different parts of the body mind, different organs, different endocrines, different meridians. So my passion is using all the years that I've studied astrology, because you could study it for a lifetime and just never be done, and weaving that into personal offerings. So what I have currently is really just kind of what everyone else would offer in terms of a session is 60 minutes. Depending on in-person, kind of tends towards 75 minutes when you're in and out of the door. Fully remote in person in the middle of Saskatchewan here in the city Regina. And then Soul Align is the offering that I do where I weave in that astrological wisdom with body mind healing. And it does have a priority focus. So someone would be coming in, you'd be like, oh my gosh, how do you work with their whole natal chart? They're coming in for a reason. Are you dealing with childhood wounds? Are you dealing with relationships? So they're choosing a theme, and you'll understand what those themes are if you know the house pairs, right? If it's relationships, it's 1st and 7th. If it's where you're in service, it's the 6th and the 12th house. So we kind of narrowed it down like that, and then they either return to work on that theme more, or they're like, yeah, I actually need to work with my communication, the 3rd house and the 9th house. So we dive in through that, and that helps ground me as a practitioner, because then, I'm not blasted open with the focus, and that helps the client feel like they've really sunk into what they want out of that session. So I do offer that. A solo line would be really just fully remote because then we can hop on Zoom and record it. So that wouldn't, no, I'm sorry, that would be distance because we want to chit chat back and forth. We want to flow through emotional release. We want to reconnect the organs that are connected to the meridians, that are connected to the houses and the planets we need to move. So those sessions are definitely done live, but really not in person because I kind of have the chart up and I got some other stuff up. And then we can tap into really cool stuff like your cosmic heritage. So if people are into the Pleiades and the Sirians and all that, that's all in your natal chart. So if you're kind of feeling anchorless in this lifetime, chances are you've got some really strong placements in your chart that are showing you what you're here to do. So I found astrology really gives that framework when people are feeling lost of actually it's in your chart what you're here to do in this lifetime. And if people are stuck in a lot of dysfunction, they're moving towards their karma and not their dharma. So they're moving towards the tail end of the dragon rather than the head. And that tends to present in a lot of dysfunction, disease, family relationships that aren't harmonious. You've kind of inherited the baggage from the parents and the grandparents because you're still looking in the review mirror. You're not moving forward towards, and that's called the North Node, which is not really part of Module 6, but I mean, there's really easy ways to access that knowledge, and you invest in other practitioners and instructors to build that, just like you have for BodyTalk, and it just all really serves. So what I have going on right now as I wrap up is I do offer the red tent every month. I'm currently not offering it virtually. Once it gets colder, I will. I'll scale back, and it's really renting space in the community is something I'm sure all of you are familiar with. There's lots of red tape around that. Lots of setup. So I like to host in person in my backyard in the tent in the summer, and then kind of scale back to virtual red tent over the winter. I am leading other women in how to learn this practice in their communities, and that training does take place October to December of this year, and it is virtual. So this would be a compilation of the 10 plus years of women's wisdom I've received from various instructors, books, courses, experiences, weaving that into how you can lead the women in your community through the red tent every new moon, but also what it looks like to lead women on the full moon, because it's very different. What it looks like to lead events related to the wheel of the year, so the equinoxes and the solstices, or in between, which we call the fire festivals. So Halloween, Beltane, Samhain, all of those days you might be familiar with. So the knowledge of what they actually mean and what we're meant to do. And the great thing about the red tent is we're really working with that path of maturity. So you can walk your girls through it if they've started cycling. You can host your women separately. And it's like walking through all of those 12 houses from module 6. That's an aspect of self. It can be in or out of balance. So the teaching of the red tent lie and what it looks like when your Virgo self is not in balance, when you're stuck in perfectionism, details, left brain. But what it looks like when Virgo is too much or too little, we always want to find that balance point. So I love the way that shows up. And then we look at the body parts ruled by that astrological sign, and people go like, oh yeah, my ankle's been bothering me for 3 months. Great. It's Aquarius new moon. Aquarius rules the ankles. So now, and then it just ends up really validating for people where they're at, and they can go like, look at my body. It's showing me I'm ready to shift this. Thank you for that pain or that imbalance. And it's like, yep, you're right where you need to be. So it's a really validating and healing practice. It's not complicated. It does require a lot of self-care if you're going to lead the women, but then I also cover how to do retreats and how to do all this other stuff that keeps my business running. So in addition to like distance BodyTalk and fully remote, I am and have been working towards my first international retreat next year, which will be in the Scottish Highlands, only an hour from my ancestral lands. And we will be heading there on the new moon because women always retreat on the new moon. And we'll be flowing through quite a few different healing activities over 5 days and nights in the Highlands. I'm bringing 5 practitioners with me because I'm not offering sessions. I'm leading the red tent. I've spent a year already planning it all. So it gives them a chance to be supported through in-house sessions. It gives the attendees a chance to get a reflexology treatment at the end of the day. Do some BodyTalk if some really deep stuff has come up. And then because of the women that I've chosen to come with me and their traveling expertise, we don't need to spend $7,000 renting a bus. Two of them already know how to drive in the UK on the opposite side of the road. So we're able to really explore Scotland, to dance in a stone circle, to hike a fairy hill, to go to amazing castles, to the Isle of Skye, to the national park in the south, at just a fraction of the cost if I was doing it in a really masculine way, which was where I would, like hire a bus driver, pay $7,000 for those 2-day trips. It's about tapping into the people that I connect deeply with and trust. And that group changes and flows, how they can contribute to this feminine experience in their own unique way. And then I don't have to be the one driving a 9-passenger van. That's not what I'm okay with. I can't actually legally do that. So it's still about approaching it from that balanced masculine left brain, right brain way of what I can do, what I can offer, how I can make this a life-changing experience by bringing other women in so that I'm creating community. I'm not doing it alone. I'm not isolated in my treatment room. I'm, stepping out into the world to try these things, and I'm making lifelong memories. And hopefully supporting other people by creating that space in that place to come and just take an adventure with other women. Again, where we don't have to be mum, right? Traveling beside our children, trying to make harmonious plans with our partner, right? Oh, like, bless them, we need them, but I don't want to dance in a stone circle with my husband. I want to dance in a stone circle with other women. And I love him, right? And he'll hold down the fort while I go. Bless him. But it's just a way for me to connect with my community and kind of a beginning of time sort of way. So that's about all I have for you. Yeah, there are just 3 rooms left. There's a couple of spots left for Scotland. And yeah, if you're looking really to approach BodyTalk and how to be in business for yourself in a unique and varied way, that would be where I excel. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I queued up my website on the last page. My business is Wholehearted Wellness, so you can find me if you plug that into any social media platform. That, of course, is changing, but for now, you can find me under wholeheartedwellness.com, Facebook, Instagram, and there'll be a really easy way because we got to do all these business things, right? We got to maintain our own websites and all this stuff, and it's a pretty basic way to scroll through my offerings, which are BodyTalk, weaving in the astrology and BodyTalk with Soul Align, and as well as Retreat. So thank you so much for listening. It's been a real pleasure to be on with you. And just if you have any questions, you can reach out to Robin. You can find me on my website and just message me easily through there.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. That was really fantastic. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.